in the letter there is a statement that I'd better get ready to depart this earth rather hurriedly.
Are you in fear for your life, or are you afraid now, or are you going to alter any of your activities because of this?
No, Teal. I am not afraid. I wasn't afraid when the shot came through the panel. I've always felt that it was something that was done by vandals or done by children or kids with nothing better to do at the time. This individual that wrote the letter made some remarks about me running against Cabell in the congressional race, and that I spent so much money, and I wasn't fooling this individual, that I was trying to do, I was up to something crooked. Then he goes on further to say that Cabell is going to get beat by the Republican in November. So I think that probably it's just an individual that certainly is unhappy with me and is unhappy with Cabell too. So I don't know whether you'd classify him as a Republican or not, but these things happen.
What did the city inspectors tell you when they came out to look at your apartment?
When they came up to look at my apartment, they looked at the conditions, and they asked me why don't I move? And I asked them, where was I going to move? Whole Black Dallas was like this.
Since Mr. McDonald has stated that complaints have to be made on an individual basis, and since he completely ignored the sectional thing, the sectional complaints that we brought before the city council, and we will have to take as many individuals as possible to his office and demand that they be heard individually on their complaints.
Senator, were you concerned enough about the letters that you called the FBI? How did the FBI get into the investigation of these letters?
No, Teal. When the police department made its investigation after the 38 slug was shot through this window here, the police department requested me at that time to keep them advised of anything that I feel would be important in regard to this shot. And when I received on the first week of July a couple of letters, I called the police officers that were investigating it, and they came up and I gave them 2 letters that I got and turned the letters over to them. And I also had a 3rd letter that I received in May that didn't have any connection with this matter until the later 2 letters were received.
The last letter actually has a threat to your life?
That's the only one that, no, I think it would be the letter of July the 1st, which is next to the last letter, which has the threat to my life by enclosing a copy of the clipping about the bullet being fired into my office. And then I'm not convinced that the person that wrote these letters had anything to do with the shooting itself. It could be that this individual that wrote the letters was just taking advantage of that particular instant to write the letters coupled with the stories of the shooting. So if the police have any information, I don't know it, and I'm not convinced that the person that wrote the letters did the shooting, but evidently the Dallas police did turn over the letters to the postal authorities, and they in turn turned them over to the FBI, because it is a federal offense to write a letter through the mails threatening someone's life.
Do you know of any political or particular personal reasons why somebody would want to threaten you so? Or is this just to you a normal occurrence for a man in active political life?
No, I don't think it's a normal occurrence. Now, anyone in political life always have people that are unhappy with them, that may think that he's stupid, or that he's crooked, or that he doesn't know what he's doing. That's a common thing. That's nothing unusual. But in this letter, particularly the one in May, for example, you've got to realize that there are people that do things like this, but there's nothing to be concerned about where you're not going about your regular activities, doing the things you've always done.
Has this kind of thing specifically ever happened to you before, though?
No, this is the first time I've gotten some letters, people that were unhappy with me, that made remarks that I should know better, that I'm crooked or that I'm stupid and things of that nature. And people have a right to their opinion and have got a right to express them. But this is the first time that any such statement that I'd better get ready for a fast departure.
Okay.
The district has several innovative programs that not only help the school children, but the community as well. One very good example is the community school at Pearl C. Anderson Junior High. This program might be cut, to save enough money to give teachers a pay raise.
Of care at any program and weigh it in terms of value to the total school population. We intend to cut out those things that are not relevant to the education of a child.
Dallas School Superintendent Nolan Estes is going to Austin on Tuesday to talk to state education officials about where funds can be found to save such programs as the community school. The board has to make up its mind before Wednesday on budget and salary proposals to be prepared for July 29th public hearing before they adopt the budget. For Channel 8 News on the Move, this is Jess Brown.
The reaction has been one of great concern because in this particular instance, many people put a lot of time, many volunteer agencies gave of themselves to this effort. We look forward to a tutoring program, we look forward to recreation program, we look forward to a library program, we look forward to extended education at very little cost to the public.
Tell me this, Dr. Conrad, what luck do you think the board will have in keeping this particular program going and other programs? Is the board sensitive to these sort of things?
The board is very sensitive to need of the entire population of Dallas. It is always difficult to cut out needed things.
Windows here at the auditorium were kicked in by a crowd of about 2,000 kids. It was a full house inside, an orderly group of about 12,000 people. The tickets had been sold out for the rock concert by Sly and the Family Stone for about 2 days and advertised as such. But the kids on the outside wanted to get in. Vanderslice says they gathered around one of the windows, kicked a window in, and the foray started. Vanderslice says the trouble was caused by a minority of the young people, that certain element, he calls it, that is always down there for that type of show.
Phyllis, was there any particular point in the ceremonies last night that you felt like maybe you had it made, that you had suddenly become Miss Texas?
No, there was no point, and especially when the 5 finalists were named, all these girls were so beautiful that I decided that if any one of them won, they were most deserving. I'd be very happy.
How will this alter your private life?
I think I'll have to be just a little bit careful now about, who I talk to and what I say and things, but I think on the whole I'll still have the same friends I have and I'll still do the same things.
Well, he told us the conditions would be alleviated and that they would get inspectors out to the buildings to inspect today, and that the problems like the electrical deficiencies would be taken care of immediately, and that the railings would be fixed immediately, and the other deficiencies would be fixed, and that they would get on the landlords about it.
It will function in that the child will be sent there by the juvenile court with agreement of her parents. And she will attend this day center every day for 3 months, and there will be intensive educational, psychiatric counseling. The parents will be counseled. There will be service and recreation. And hopefully this child will go through this for 3 months intensive care and then have approximately 6 months follow-up. And we're hoping to cut down on the rate of recidivism and the rising delinquency rate in our city.
Oh no, much more than the flag issue is involved in this. I think there's an overall issue of whether or not laws are going to be uniformly enforced here in Dallas, throughout Texas, and indeed all of the United States. And it's something that I hope to make my work, making sure that we do have justice in this country.
What other areas concern you?
Well, there are a lot of areas here in Dallas that have to do with the type of people that's arrested. In Dallas, we know that it's primarily the poor or the disenfranchised who are arrested, who are in many cases, unfortunately, harassed by the police, that if you happen to have long hair and are driving down the street, you have a much higher chance of being stopped by the police on a traffic violation and having your car searched. That this isn't the way the law is intended to read. We're all supposed to be equal under the law, and that I'm afraid that in this example of the flag cases and then in many other examples in Dallas, this isn't the case, and we have to have this corrected.
Have you felt any pressure from anybody as a result of your actions?
I personally have felt no real pressure. There's been harassing phone calls and this type of thing, but one gets used to that in Dallas. Other people who...
Why does one get used to that in Dallas?
Well, I'm afraid in Dallas there's a feeling that in letters that I have gotten, people have said that I should be deported. People have said that I'm no good, out to ruin the country. I believe trying to help strengthen the country in justice.
Hank, on behalf of Sports Illustrated, I'd like to present you and Johnny Crockett the Award of Merit.
Thank you very much. Sure do appreciate it.
I guess you were mighty thrilled, even though the trials took place in Tennessee back in March. Thrilled
Yes.
on this July morning that you won, aren't you?
Yes, it's still a great thrill. That hasn't worn off and probably never will.
You've had walking horses, Hank, and other animals, and you've
Right.
been a sports lover all your life. Would you say this is the biggest thrill?
Yes, sir, by far. And I'd say the toughest thing in this world to come by is a good field trial bird dog.
How can you tell if you've got a good one?
Well, trial and error, and trust what your trainer tells you.
And at W.C. Kirk, you've got a fellow you can trust.
Yes, sir, absolutely. He said all along this little dog was one of the greatest dogs he'd ever seen, and it proved to be true.
How old is Johnny Crockett?
6 years old now. Just about now. He's born in July, about 6 years ago. 6 years old.
When did you realize you had a good dog?
Well, everybody, and we thought he was a great little dog, but his first big win was the Central United States trial. It's held up at Ardmore, Oklahoma. And he won that when he was 20, we figured out a while ago he was 28 months old. Or somebody might say 29 months old. All the field trial greats of that year was there, all except Safari, I guess. All the champions were there, 68, 69 dogs, and he won from that day on. Everybody, including myself, all along, and Mr. Kirk, we were sure we had a dog capable.
You have to get invited to the Nationals, don't you?
Yes, you do. You have to qualify. I think there's 48 dogs, if I'm not mistaken, that are qualified now for the National. And this past year, 43, I believe, 43 participated.
How do they conduct the national trials?
Well, they run 2 braces of dogs each day, and they don't run on Sunday. Now, this trial perhaps will go on for at least 2 weeks if they're not held up by bad weather. And they'll run a brace in the morning, a brace in the afternoon, and each brace competes for 3 hours. It's an endurance type of thing. And that's a tough 3 hours to run, too.
What is in store for Johnny Crockett now?
Well, we don't know for sure. We've had a lot of interest in the dog, naturally, to breed to the dog. We've had a lot of people trying to buy the dog. And as of now, we've turned down all offers. From Japan, we got a letter saying just send him at any price, and we've refused that. Whether we'll absolutely retire the dog or not, there's a lot of sentiment attached to a lot of people wanting him to compete again, and perhaps that's what he'll do.
John, does the grand jury's action surprise you at all?
No, it doesn't surprise me, particularly because understanding the composition of the Dallas County grand jury, and I'm sure that they felt that they were acting according to the principles that they hold, and knowing the power and influence in the Mercantile Bank in Dallas, this action didn't surprise me at all. What I'm waiting to see now is the action that they take this week and throughout the rest of their session in handling other flag cases that will come before them.
What you're saying, in essence, is that you expect that they probably will go ahead and prosecute some cases against some people for defiling the flag, people that you have in the past referred to as hippies, where they did not against the establishment bank. Is that the idea generally?
That's part of the concern, that I have a certain amount of fear that they will do this.
Now, to the people, on the street, they might not realize that the police are continually making money, off of these people. Now, when people are in transit and when people are going about the business at hand, who is to say that the police can determine whether or not I'm doing business, when I'm in transit?
Fine, but she forgot to read the first part of the ordinance, which says that where there is an opportunity or where there is an indication that the safety of persons or property is endangered, then under those circumstances, these standards apply. And the whole ordinance is for the purpose of preventing any physical harm to individuals or to property.
We have long recognized the need for something special for girls because our alternatives were very limited. And of course the last resort is to send one to the state training school. But we cannot at all be sure that this is the answer to the real problem, and hopefully this type of program will give much better results in the long run.
Well, I see it as an act by a certain number of people here in Dallas who were appointed to the grand jury who look at this and can't really believe that the law was meant to apply to those who have support for our national policies at this time, and they see the flag as something which evidences support of our national policies. I can't see, they don't believe that the law applies to those people. They see intent as part of this law. Unfortunately, intent has been brought into the interpretation of the flag laws, that when a person goes to trial in these cases, he's being asked, were you opposed to the war in Vietnam? Were you using this? And were you showing disrespect for the flag and for the country by showing this dissent?